hopefully. So, probably some of you heard about open data, some of you heard about open science, and now I'm going to tell you about what kind of a beast you could grow from a thing which we called open data science. And is it a community or something else? So, a few words about me. Actually, I'm a data scientist, which typically also gathered and organized teams of data scientists. So, one of the previous talks about how to not mess things up and not to waste $1 million is probably the one which touched me most, because it's like a lot of post-traumatic pain which was relieved. But right now, I'm not going to talk about mathematics or machine learning. I'm going to talk to you about people. But before we talk about people, let's talk about imps, elves, dwarves, and other creatures. Does any of you recognize any of these pictures? Yes, indeed. These are heroes. And does any heroes of Might and Magic 3, to be precise. And does everyone who recognized it know what is in the center of each of those images? Okay, it's Mage Guild. Mage Guild is a very curious concept, which I first found when playing Heroes during my adolescence and earlier youth. And I really liked this idea that you have mages which work for everyone. You can have rival factions, like for example angels and devils, which have their own mage guilds, and they will always provide you with spell book and spells to play your game with. We occasionally made jokes that whenever we had a collective or a drinking party with guys from bioinformatics and from banking, we could say that, okay, so you guys which work with machine learning and bioinformatics could be, let's say, elves, and guys who work with client data in banks might be dwarves. But we can, of course, extend this whole concept to all the factions which we see here. So, for example, if you are working with CRM data and trying to resurrect your customer base or pushing them into eternal servitude via churn and retention predictions, then you might be a necromancer. Or if you are a kaggle expert and trying to crunch yet another number behind the dot, on yet another competition and use stacking, then maybe you're into machine learning inferno. Next thing is that what actually makes a difference between a community and a guild. Because, you know, there are many communities out there, and actually it's quite easy to call yourself a community. You just make a public page on Facebook, let's say, or on Twitter, and say that you are a community. You are a blockchain community, you are Internet of Things community, you are a machine learning community, why not? What would make you different and make you, let's say, more productive and constructive? Well, first of all, what would make you what we found out to be a guild is that you would actually share your knowledge, you would teach, and you would teach others and teach yourself while doing this. Actually, it's quite curious what I learned from Wikipedia is that formation of guilds is what actually led to the development of universities. Universities of Oxford, University at Cologne, they all were created based on the developments of local guilds. Then another important thing which would make you stand out from a community to a guild is that you would actually promote and indeed provoke innovation. Kaggle is a very nice example. To those of you who are not familiar, Kaggle is an international platform for machine learning competitions. Before, there was this common framework for tasks in machine learning and a common platform. Different people could claim that they have state-of-the-art on this problem based on their specific laboratory. Others would claim that they are liars, state-of-the-art belongs to them. They have a pedigree of 20 years of research, and they are the main experts in the field. But once we got Kaggle and we got machine learning competitions, everything just clarified. You would use gradient boosting and win those competitions one at a time. And let's say, these best libraries and best tools were the thing that easily spread across communities and across different industries. So before Kaggle, not everyone knew what top machine learning frameworks and machine learning models were, even despite the so-called no free lunch theorem. But with the help of such media like Kaggle, like communities and let's say guilds, people would faster find best suiting tools and spread them across each other. And of course, what is really important about communities and what we experience with us in Russia is that together we can unite people from rivaling and competing companies which actually publicly not hate but challenge each other. So imagine you have two largest IT companies in your region and they heavily dislike each other so that even when you create a conference, they have the so-called banner war. It means that these two companies can't be in the same rank of partnership with the conference, and sometimes even only one of them can be a partner of a conference without letting the other one participate. In our case, actually, engineers, researchers, and let's say managers from these companies, from these rivaling companies, drink together, sometimes collaborate on articles together, and solve machine learning competitions together without giving a crap about all those rivalries. That's mostly because your participation in a community lasts much longer than your typical job time at a company. And of course, if you want to go beyond community, you have to create. Here are some of the things which our crew from Open Data Science made and with which we can be proud of. So first of all, we have probably the most popular in Russia blog in Russian language in machine learning on a popular website Khabr. Today, when we looked, we once again were in top 10 organizations on this platform. We also consistently made videos of our participants who won or took a high place in Kaggle competitions. You could actually find a lot of those on machine learning trainings on YouTube. So you can't actually see, but there are at least 29 videos in this playlist with a very thorough explanation of how this particular person in this video won yet another machine learning competitions. So what can you go and what can you do with this post community? Let's call this post community because guild sounds too, I don't know, too loud. Well, first of all, you develop local expertise and you organize people to collaborate. So this can be a collaboration hub, but let's be honest, when it often comes to cool projects which you could collaborate on, for example, projects on computer games like Dota, like StarCraft, which we fancy greatly and foster oftenly, there are a lot of spectators, but not too many participants. But what you really have to spend a lot of time on is a wide list of events to grow and to facilitate all these activities. But you often start with a medium. An online medium where you could not be really wary of others to sneak peek and, let's say, spread rumors around you. It might be paradoxical, but open data science community is not really open when it comes to our Slack. It was a really nice atmosphere where engineers could spread insights about different companies, different teams, could suggest one to move from one team to another within those companies. If we made this publicly available, then angry HR, personnel, and recruiters would just flood us. That's not the thing we ever wanted. But besides the medium, what you would really want is to find a place where you could meet regularly. It often starts with a small group of enthusiasts, which can meet wherever they want. It could be meetings at their particular flats or dormitories. It could be meetings at offices. But it always starts small. You always start small. Afterwards, you should try to make these things regular. In particular, we have a very low cost, I would say, a very lean format called data science breakfasts. They happen regularly across the whole CIS. So we have data breakfasts each week at the same place in Moscow, in St. Petersburg, in Kiev, in Minsk, in Yekaterinburg, in Novosibirsk. And here are just pictures from those regular meetings. It's a really nice format where you don't need an agenda. You just come to this particular place, you discuss things, you share different insights, you share different ideas, and you are not bound to any specific agenda or rules. What you also are really encouraged to do is set up hackathons or even summer schools. This is a picture from a thing called Deep Hack. I've seen several guys from actually Armenia here who participated in those deep hacks. Maybe they can even find themselves in this picture. This is a very interesting format in that it is something in between a hackathon and a summer school, because it's a hackathon which lasts for a week and which has a lot of lectures. So for this particular one, we had lecturers and professors giving us talks through Skype from Google, from Facebook, from New York University. Those are different scientific, let's say, stars who are ready and who are willing to share their expertise and share their knowledge with other enthusiasts. You only have to write them, and most of the time they'll be ready and willing to give you a talk through Skype, even on hackathons. I've already talked about machine learning trainings. This is probably the thing which we at the same time are most proud of, and at the same time which brought us first real trouble. Once again, this is a very specific event where people and enthusiasts who collaborate on Kaggle tasks meet almost regularly, at least once in 2 weeks. And at first, when it started, they just shared their ideas and some code snippets of how to participate in some of those challenges on Kaggle. After, let's say, several months, less than half a year, they got substantive and sufficient expertise that they no longer needed to share any code. They just gathered and talked about their results. They talked about what was their approach, which brought them to at first top 10%, then to top 10 participants, then to top 3, top 2, and top first place. And over time, it actually evolved into this long-lasting series of events, which is mostly about sharing your solutions for competitions. When I talk about problems which it caused us, recently there was a competition on Top Coder platform where 9 out of 10 top places were taken by our community members. For the first time, it brought not only attention to spreading knowledge and expertise, but also with concerns that Russian hackers hacked Top Coder and they might have cheated. Actually, if we take a look at statistics, there are at least 15 people from open data science globally which are in top 100 on Kaggle. So it's not really a coincidence when you take a look at statistics, but such concerns from organizers are already emerging. Oh, and by the way, this guy on the left here is Stas Semyonov, first Russian speaker Kaggle participant who took first place on Kaggle. So for quite some time, we had our community members who were top 3 on Kaggle, top 5 on Kaggle, in top 10 in different time frames. But he was the first one to be number 1 globally. By the way, once again, you could find all those videos and all those solutions on our websites and within our different pages on the web. But besides those regular events, you also have to occasionally quite maybe rarely, organize large meetups and these large facilitation events, like Datafest. Datafest is a really nice event to kickstart these communities and to kickstart this collaboration. This is a photo from Minsk Datafest, first Belarusian Datafest this year. I know maybe there are some people in the hall who were there, but this is a really nice opportunity to kickstart this whole story and the whole series of events afterwards. It's no secret that when we started our first Datafest in Moscow 2.5 years ago, we had like somewhere around 250 participants overall, but this is a picture from this February. This is Moscow's Datafest, and it's only one of the halls here. People in Ukraine really don't like when we call it largest event in CIS and Eastern Europe, mostly because there is simply nothing bigger in Eastern Europe so far. But this is a result you can achieve in just a couple of years if you have a team of enthusiasts which keeps going and keeps developing themselves and their colleagues. Here are just let's say, aggregated event types which you could look for. Of course, there are different meetups all around. You could organize not only data science meetup, but whenever you have enough speakers, which is important, enough speakers, not audience, you could split it into PyData meetup, deep learning meetup. It can be a big data and Hadoop meetup for data engineers. But you split those only when you have sufficient expertise from those who can talk about this. And of course, you could always organize absolutely informal events all around the year. This is a small map of guys in such magenta hoodies like myself around CIS and Europe. By the way, we started out as only a Russian community, but right now we are growing to communities which don't know Russian at all. In particular to Israel, to Oslo and Norwegia. And we really hope that there will be guys from Georgia, from Tbilisi, to whom we can help with setting up open data science here locally. And today we are all together on this wonderful Datafest, first Datafest in Georgia. So what I want to tell you with the last words is that to those of you who don't know, this is the so-called hero's journey. It's a typical pattern of a literature hero in almost all fairy tales and all adventures. It would be really great if this Datafest would be the thing that would set you up on this journey with data, with machine learning, with data science, where you would start with meeting new people here, then trying out, exploring new methods, new technologies, maybe new fields, then, of course, experimenting, collaborating with each other, and maybe even developing something cool, maybe even developing new startups. As we have heard, there are already AI startups in Georgia. Why should it not be you who would make next data science and AI startup here? And then you would, of course, not only learn yourself, but at some point in time when you would be on the next round of this hero's journey, you would be the one who would organize stuff and who would teach others. So, a short summary. Unite others, unite yourselves, create, share, of course, because if you are not sharing, this is not a guild, this is not a modern community. This is something Max Planck told about scientific communities. You know, this famous quote that science advances one funeral at a time. Do not let this happen to data science. And so, share, teach, learn, and unite. And that's it. Thank you. And here are a few things which you could make in the nearest couple of days. So first of all, today, network with others, network with us, ask us, meet our colleagues from all around the globe, as we see here. and maybe try to set these events up. So why not start data breakfast anytime soon, maybe even tomorrow, or meetups on Saturdays. And of course, network. This is what a Datafest usually ends with, and hopefully we'll all meet together this evening. So once again, thank you. I'm not sure if I have any questions. No? Okay, so once again, thank you, and see you soon.